in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
Good day, everybody. This is UCY.tv with the Solvinur Event. I'm your host, Walter, also known as Solvinur. And in the past, when I didn't have things in front of me that I wanted to discuss, because I've made radio for a couple of years now on different stations, but usually, especially when it was in the Netherlands, I would not prepare for anything because I didn't think it was needed. You know, I dare call myself awake, and I figured that I don't need to prepare anything. I can talk about so many things that it wasn't needed. So, and I found out that what happens when I go live is something happens with me. It's like a switch is thrown, and I just start talking. Yeah. So, but today I do have one thing open only, actually. We're going to continue where we left off last week. You can also join us at the chat at ucy.tv. You will find a link that says shows. Let's see what it says. ucy.tv. Good name, by the way. And there you will find shows. If you mouse over them, you see all kinds of radio there, like double-crossed radio, and if you click on any of those, you end up in the chat room. You can ask questions there as well. So, there you go. Okay. So today, I will be talking about thinking, communication, identification, and things like that under the heading Trivium. So what is a Trivium? It is a method, as we are discussing it anyway. Trivium is a method, and it's also a weapon. It's like a shield, one could say, or a firewall, actually, could also be a firewall seen as. And it's a weapon because it is being used against us also. You see, the Trivium is a mirror of how our minds work. And you have may heard other people say that people are mind controlled. Yeah, that is correct. Not on a single basis, but as a mass, people are mind controlled. And why is that? Because they don't think for themselves. People don't think. That's the whole problem. They don't think. They might think they think. Yeah. But they really don't. It's more, like I said before, people don't act. People react. And they react as they are programmed. You see, so the mind control is a programming. That's why they call it program on TV, you see. And let me light my cigarette here. So that's a problem. You need to throw out your TV if you still have one in the house. Get it out of there, and the subscription, sell your TV and save yourself some money. So what we're doing here with the Trivium is giving you a tool that will help you defend yourself against the influences from outside, whether they be commercials, movies, talks by other people. I don't care what it is. It doesn't matter what it is. This will help you protect yourself. And actually, it is a natural way in which we do things, but it has been suppressed by the schooling system. That people are forced to, children are forced to go to school. It's like a jail. That's how I experienced my school anyway. So, it was really a jail. Okay, so what is the process and purpose of thinking? Right? Thinking is the process of identification. The word identification is very important here. They're using a metaphor here. If you equate the process of learning to the process of eating, thinking is the part where you carefully identify what is and what is not food so as not to poison yourself. Alright? Thinking is a tool of survival and necessary to human beings. Yeah, it sure is a tool of survival, especially when we go back lots of years, like say more than 20, 30,000 years, 40, 50, perhaps even 100,000 years. At that point, fire was one of our main means of survival. If we had no fire, we could not pick up a branch from the fire pile and stick it in an animal's face if needed, or use it against other humanoids that try to steal from you, for instance. And fire is possibly also a means in which we learned how to cook things. Because probably what happened was that ancient humanoids threw their leftover food in the fire and found out that, hey, that smells good. And it tastes better, you know. So it might be a way in how we found out that we could cook things. But fire was one of our main survival things, and you had to keep the fire going. And if it went out, there had to be a thinking process started to get new fire. You see, because it's like putting something in the future. You have to find fire, and in your mind you're going, where am I going to find fire? And that takes place in the future, you see. Animals don't have that. They live completely in the moment. They do not think. So, thinking is for humans. Where were we? Thinking is a tool of survival and necessary to human beings, who are volitional beings, meaning that there is a space to be filled in. And in that space we make our choices. And again he asks, what is the process of purpose of thinking? Thinking is a process of identification. It starts when we question our observation and initiates a process by which we learn to answer our own questions. That's like the dialectic going on inside your head. When you gather your grammar, you do your research, you gather your grammar, that's the same thing, doing research and gathering grammar. the questions arise automatically in your head, and you need to address them. What is identity? It's the result of the process of elimination resulting in non-contradictory label. Right? So, what is identifying? It is answering all the questions that arise when you're gathering the grammar, when you're doing research, and see if there are any contradictions in there. So sometimes it might be that the grammar pieces that you have are contradicting each other. Then you need to find out which one of the grammar pieces is correct and throw out the incorrect one. Another possibility is that the grammar doesn't seem to make sense to you because you do not have a correct understanding of the grammar, which means you need to find out what it is. Continuing, if I describe a vehicle with wheels, you might say car. If I add that it is pulled by a horse, you might say buggy. It is in observing similarities and differences, that we define a concept. This reminds me of what Jean O'Denning said about general and, oh my god, I can't find the other word now. Anyway, let's continue. There's general and specific? No, another word. Yeah, maybe we'll get to it. It is observing similarities and differences that we define a concept, and once defined we label it. So general, it reminds me of inductive and deductive, but we'll get to that in a later point, maybe in a couple of weeks. Because next week we will be doing fallacies, and maybe in 4 weeks or so I'll give you a very, very good explanation of deductive and inductive reasoning. It's important that you know the difference and how they work together, actually, the deductive and inductive. So, this process of literating in the, there you go, in the genera and differentia, see that's what it was, differentia. So there's general and differentia, right? This process of literating the genera and differentia, or similarities and contrast, allows one to see a concept in focus, right? So it seems that there is also a link between genera and differentia and deductive and inductive. Okay, but we'll get to that at some point. Once a concept is defined or labeled, it can then be further identified by asking who, what, where, when, that's the grammar, then why, which is logic, and then how, which is rhetoric. We all know these questions as the 5 W's plus how. Questions which should be answered in a quality piece of journalism. But in reality there is only one question, as I mentioned, asked in 6 different ways. Yeah, we mentioned that last week, remember? There's only what? Because if you ask when, for instance, you could ask also, in what time did this happen? Alright? Or when we ask who, it could be in, for instance, what is the identity of the person that we're talking about? So it always comes back to what. And so the problem is with this that normally, and I'm not talking about us now, but more about the people that are mind controlled, they do not get the grammar. And if they get the grammar, they get only parts of the grammar. And the conclusion, that is the why, is also provided by the media. And the conclusion is always wrong, because the grammar is flawed. You cannot have a correct conclusion if your grammar is flawed. And why is the grammar flawed? Because they only supply parts of the grammar, or even lie when they present grammar. Right? Grammar is data, information. That's general grammar. And there's also special grammar, which pertains to a specific language. But general grammar, it doesn't matter in what language you're talking about. So, who translates to what is the identity of the person involved? What translates as what is the identity of the subject, concept or topic involved? Where translates as what is the identity of the location or place? Then when translate as what is the identity of time? No, not of time, of the time. Why translates as what is the identity of the cause? Then how translates as what is the identity of the means or process? It is in asking the question what is the identity of that thinking takes place, as it is the process of grasping identification. Yeah, that's, by the way, maybe I mentioned this last week or the week before that also. But I don't like the word understanding. And I gave you a Dutch translation, remember? It was called begrijp. And actually the word grasping is closely related to that. It's also etymologically tied, the word grasping, to our Dutch word begrijp. To grasp something means you get a hold of it, you see. In Dutch we say begrijp, which can also be mutated into begrip. Then you get grip, you see. Just add the BE in front of it. So when you grip something, you have a better understanding, right? So I don't like the word understanding. I really don't. If I translate it in literally to Dutch, we get onderstaan. That is not a word. So I think like, okay, but staan is a word. It means to stand, right? From understanding. And if I use the word staan, I can make Dutch words like versta, and that means, did you hear what I said? Or did you understand what I said? When in Dutch we say, versta je mij? It can also mean, did you hear me? Or did you understand me? Right? So there's something with that word stand. Let's see, where were we? It is, take this from the start again. It is in asking the question, what is the identity of, that thinking takes place, as it is the process of grasping identification. And this is logic. Logic is the art of non-contradictory identification. Yeah, that's from Ayn Rand. I don't, say that she's the end-all and all of logic, although this is a pretty good description. But we'll get to logic in the future. I will tell you much, much more about logic. Why do I talk kind of negatively about Ayn Rand? Because I listened to her in the past, especially this TV interview that she gave. Yeah. And you have to be suspicious as well, people, of people appearing on television, because that's for the masses, you see. Yeah. But she was showing that she's still stuck in the political left and right in that interview. So she didn't have all the grammar. You know, I heard from Jan Irvin that she was also, she had a stance like, oh, America is the greatest. Yeah? Not only probably because she's from Russia, but also because she didn't have the right information. She didn't know that Germany was also funded by the rest of us. And that the revolution in Russia was set up to create an enemy. You see, wars are quote-unquote fake. They are instigated. And she doesn't know that. So, then you're missing a big puzzle piece there. So whatever conclusions she comes to are flawed, because she's still stuck in a left-right paradigm of politics. So that's why I'm quite negative about her. But anyway, this is good what she says. Logic is the art of non-contradictory identification. And she got that, by the way, not from herself, as far as I know anyway, because this is thousands and thousands of years old. The non-contradictory identification part. Lotus. What's his name? Plato also talked about this. The concept of proof, which is something we're all looking for, is also useful to define at this point. Okay, let's see what they got here. Proof is the process of deriving a conclusion step by step from the directly given evidence of the senses. Yes, that's correct. Each step in accordance with the law of identity, which is logic. Let's try this again. Proof is the process of deriving a conclusion. So this is like building up, right? You take your grammar, your facts that you start with, as far as I can see this anyway. That's why it's the step by step, right? You build from the building blocks that you have. That's your grammar. That's the step by step. So proof is the process of deriving a conclusion step by step from the directly given evidence of the senses. Each step in accordance with the law of identity, which is logic. Once concepts are mutually defined, communication becomes much more efficient and effective. Notice that here, there's, in this sentence, it's the whole trivium. You see? You've got the grammar, which is the directly given evidence of the senses. Then you, step by step, put them in accordance with the law of identity, which is logic. That's the second part of the trivium. And then once concepts are mutually identified, communication, which is the rhetoric, becomes much more efficient and effective. Huh? Logic is the art of non-contradictory identification, meaning that one thing cannot be another thing at the same time and respect. Put in a formula, this is A is A. And cannot be something else. There's more to this, by the way, but we'll get to that at another point, another radio broadcast. There's more to this. Where were we? In essence, any agreed upon definition acts as common ground for successful communication. Yeah? Do this again. In essence, any agreed upon definition, that's your grammar. Right? That's why it's important that when you talk to somebody and you're using a word, that the definition the listener has in his mind is the same as that you're talking about. Otherwise, the communication is useless. If you're attempting to communicate with someone and cannot agree on common definitions, communication cannot take place. That's right. If identities cannot be defined, logic is not present. And the conversation then is apparently about nothing. If there is a failure to communicate, it is likely that there is a contradiction in identification, whereby reaffirming mutual agreement on definitions or identification will most likely remedy the situation. This is the common thread between humans and computers, and why we can use computers to communicate. The way I am communicating with you right now is identical to how computers communicate. In a technological sense, we all speak in code. And if you have the decoder, in this case English, you can understand what I'm saying, even if you have to look up a few words. A code is defined as communication between an encoder, a writer or speaker, that's me, and a decoder, a reader or listener, that's you. Using agreed upon symbols, in this case the English alphabet and the English dictionary. Now this continues here with a picture. The essence of communication, the mathematical theory of communication. They got like squares here with things beside it like information source and so on. So I'll just pick this up a bit lower. This is by Claude Shannon. In 1948, Claude Shannon, an American polymath, published his paper on the mathematical theory of communication, which earned him a place in history as the father of information theory. Shannon's work in how communication works is a foundation principle for the electronic age. Hold on, let me get a cup of coffee here. As it is used in computers and practically every communication device or electronic gadget. It is in recognizing the input, that's the grammar, processing, which is the logic, and output pattern, which is the rhetoric, that we can learn how our own process of communication is undermined. Undermined? What do you mean undermined? That sounds like blowing things up, right? Like with a mine that goes boom. What do they mean here? That we can learn how our own process of communication is undermined? Is there a second definition of the word undermined that I do not know? Is it like that's what you're building on or something? Why would you call that mind? M-I-N-E-D. You have an idea, you express it, and the person to whom you're speaking looks as if your message has been lost in translation. Now, they're really talking about undermined as I understand it here. If you agree on definitions, the coded language used to transmit the message, whether in English or in binary code, the next step will be to identify the source of noise in the message. Specifically identifying that which is the message and that which is not. This is the logical processing. Humans and computers differ insofar as humans sometimes attempt to deceive each other well, be it on purpose or not, and or communicate information which is not validated. Yeah, that you get a lot. People spout out all kinds of nonsense because they didn't check the facts. Both instances create chaos or noise, which can dissolve the integrity of the message. A fallacy is an error in logical thinking. The word fallacy derives from Latin fallare, or something like that, fallere, to deceive, but also means to lie, by the way. If someone is nescient in the myriad of fallacies in existence, their use, if recognized by you, might be construed as innocent. If someone is knowledgeable and is attempting to deceive you by using fallacies, if recognized by you, can be addressed, and you can avoid taking toxic misinformation and filling it in your memory as truth. Yeah. When we get to the fallacies, people, it's important that you understand them. The most important thing about understanding the fallacies is that once you've understood these, hold on. Once you've understood these fallacies, you will recognize them in all kinds of communication that is going on. And the point about it is that what's important about it is that if you recognize one of these fallacies, it does not automatically mean that there's something wrong. But you do have to investigate it. Right? So I'll give you an example. I guess I could give you an example. This is from Jan Irvin. He gave this example also. This is in relation to the boy that cried wolf. Alright? So there was a boy that cried wolf, and everybody knows it. And all of a sudden, they're living in this village, which is in a vale, and the boy is climbing the hill, and when he's on top of the hill, he sees that there's a horde coming, and they don't look friendly. And he's shouting down to the people in the village, there's a horde coming, there's a horde coming, people grab your weapons, we need to defend ourselves, right? And so because he's known to have raised the alarm on occasions where it wasn't necessary, the people do not respond, you know? Because they say, well, it's a boy who cried wolf. But the proper thing to do would be to check if he's telling the truth or not, you see? So if you encounter a fallacy, don't immediately go like, oh, that's a fallacy, that's wrong. Nope, doesn't work like that. Can't do it. Especially not because most people, and that includes me, use fallacies without even knowing them, without even knowing about it, you know? So they can unknowingly use a fallacy and not on purpose, and they're trying to communicate a point or trying to warn you or whatever, and they're really honest about it, but they're using a fallacy unknowingly. So let's continue here. However, when so much information is held secret and so many fables and are therefore circulated as truth, it is hard to achieve a clear focus on reality. Yeah. You have to have a clear focus on reality. Why? Because your actions will be useless if they do not address reality, so to speak, have a basis in reality. So you have to know what reality is. Thinking is the process of bringing our mind into focus on the subject or concept to be identified. So what would happen if the properties of identification are withheld from you? What is that? What are the properties of identification? Okay. Let's see. Copy this. Put that in the paste thing here. And let's see what we get. Properties of identification. It's a code. Looks like it. Properties must be registered. What the heck is property of identification? Because property, when I sometimes, mostly, you know, my thinking is in English, but when I do not understand something, I translate it into Dutch and see what I get then, right? Property in Dutch is eigenschap. And if I would translate that back to English for you guys, it would be something like ownership. Property, yeah. That which is owned to it, something like that. So what is owned to identification, right? Doesn't make sense, right? Oh my God, what is it? Next page. Let's see. Yeah, see? That's what I was thinking a little also. See, things have properties, you see? And if you identify the characteristics of the property, you get a better idea of what it is, right? Is that what we're talking about here? I guess so. Let's try this again. Thinking is the process of bringing our mind into focus on the subject or concept to be identified. Yeah, see? So what would happen if the properties of identification are withheld from you? You become the external enemy, the profane public, the exoteric masses who are left blind and in the dark. See? That is why light is also related to intellect, intelligence. See? Dark is dumb, unknown, right? Light is that which is known. Knowledge, intelligence. This is the nature of encryption and cryptography, which Claude Shannon also miraculously, elaborated in simplest terms. There's another diagram here. I'm not going to describe the diagram here for you guys. Claude Shannon also created the communication of secrecy systems method, which occults information. That's the key source. Denying someone outside of the secret society the ability to read the messages. Okay, this sounds like symbols. This is useful to understand, as it is access to the key which enables the rest of us to decrypt our reality. Really? What do they mean here? As it is access to the key which enables the rest of us to decrypt our reality? The key to understanding reality is your logic, people. As far as I know anyway, as far as I understand it. Because you see, I'm an advocate of what and I've only learned this term myself lately. You know, I'm beginning to grasp the idea the last 2 weeks only. But the thing is, I've always held that. You know, even since I was like 16 or 17 or so. Or before that even. The thing is, reality is what it is. They call it primacy of existence. You see? Existence was there before you were born, you know? And it's not like there is a primacy of consciousness. It isn't. A lot of people will say, and I believe the subjectivists also account to this, mysticism also, they say that consciousness is first. No, it is not. Reality is first. That which is first. Existence is first. That's why they call it primacy of existence. Right? But to figure out in what existence or what reality you're living in, you need to gather your grammar and then use your logic on it. That influences, by the way, your consciousness. It changes. Right? But existence does not change. That's always the same. Existence is the same for you as it is for me. It is that we perceive it differently, that we might get contradictions there, right? But that's because we are flawed, not because the reality somehow changes. No way. Okay, let's continue here. Yes, the occulting of information is the encryption of our reality. Really, see? I really don't agree with this. Reality is not encrypted. It is in the words that are put before us that we get a wrong understanding, yeah? But you can't encrypt reality. That's impossible. Reality is what it is. It's unchangeable. So, let's try this again. Yes, the occulting of information is the encryption of our reality, and this will enable you to see some of the understandings related in films like The Matrix. Yeah. Yeah, that's also a topic that still bugs me, to be honest with you. You know, they say, well, you hear people say, let me put it this way. You hear people say, they have control of Hollywood and they have control of the media and things like that, right? So why is it that there are films out there, like The Network? Huh? Or another one, I don't remember the name at this point, but there's this movie and They Live, it is called. The movie. Right? This guy finds a pair of glasses and all of a sudden he can see that there's aliens, you know. It's a symbolic way of telling you what's going on, right? And the Matrix also has some of those elements in it, but I have my questions about some of the elements in there, like the ship, which is called Nebuchadnezzar. Come on, right? The city, which is called Zion. Seriously? You know? And that's supposed to be the free world? What's going on here? But there's other things in the Matrix that are quite correct. So I wonder, how much control do they really have when they're letting these kinds of movies out there? Is it like they don't care? Because they think, well, the people are just going to think it's entertainment, it's science fiction, and they won't figure it out anyway? Is that the point? Is that why they are, quote-unquote, letting this happen? If you claim that they have control of all of this? Or is it really so that, like another movie, for instance, with the JFK, remember? Oliver Stone? Is it, you know, is it really that they do not have control? And that they have to let these kinds of movies out there. I don't know. Anyway, the Matrix. If the world has been pulled over our eyes, then education is the process of getting back to reality. In ancient Hindu, Ram is a word for God. Yeah. It's actually Rama. But in India people say Ram because they're too lazy to pronounce the last letter. Today in the 21st century it refers to memory. Yeah. Like in your computer. Might these concepts be connected? No. Yeah. Ram is Rama is a mythological figure. And the thing about myth is that it's okay to read this stuff, guys, but do not take it literally. Especially don't take it literally. All these persons, like Rama, he's a brother of Krishna, who you probably know better, are symbols for natural powers like wind, earthquakes, thunder, and so on and so on. Right? So Ram, it has nothing to do with memory. Not the Indian Ram, as I know him anyway, and I know a lot about him. Right? He was born in jail, for instance, and he was born as a flame. Did you know that? He was born as a little flame, and that's how he was able to get out of the prison in which he was living. This story doesn't make any sense, you know. It starts with this king that is a brutal king, and this Brahmana comes up to him, and he says, "You king, you are brutal, and there's going to be somebody born from such and such person, and they will kill you." Right? So what does this king do? He jails the two people that the Brahmana is talking about. And then the men and women in case they are in jail, and they make all these children. Right? That doesn't make sense in the first place. If the king really wanted to make sure that this child was not born, you would not put the man and the wife in the same jail, would ya? So these children should never have been born in the first place. But the story goes on, and there's 6 children born, and every time the child is born, the king comes down and smashes the baby's head against the wall. What kind of what is that, you know? This is what they tell to children. Babies getting their heads smashed on the wall. Excuse me? This is sick. Really sick. So, but then Krishna and Rama are born, and when Krishna is born, somehow all the guards go to sleep, and magically the door of the jail opens, you know, and all this kinds of nonsense. And Krishna is a baby, and he's brought out by his father, who crosses the Ganges and delivers the baby, blah, blah, blah. And Rama is then born as a little flame, and somehow he escapes, you know, without even the jail door having to be opened. So these are all stories that you cannot take literally. Let's continue here. Where were we? Ram is the word for God. Today in the 21st century it refers to memory. Might these concepts be connected? No. This diagram illustrates the not as far as I can see anyway. This diagram illustrates the similarities and differences between you and your computer. And it is titled Your Computer and You. And I thought that it might help you get more out of this lesson. It is likely that we all have a computer. And like we just learned from Claude Shannon, there are 3 basic steps to making it useful. Yeah, where do you think this Shannon got it from, right? Really? Input, processing, output. This is the Trivium. That's where she got it from, probably. Input is the grammar, processing is your logic, output is the rhetoric. Right? Blah, blah. It's also known as input knowledge, processing understanding, output wisdom. That's the ancient way in which it is known. This cycle, repeated consistently, makes it a useful tool. Your computer, in simplest terms, is a code or operating system, which runs on a chip made of sand and stored as memory as rust on a disk. Rust? Seriously? I thought it worked different. I thought that's what I learned anyway. Maybe it's wrong. But there's silicon chips in your computer, right? And these silicon chips can have either a positive or a negative charge. I believe the negative charge was a 0 and the positive charge is a 1. So it is a electrical coding. Because you see, rust is silicium oxide. That is sand rusted. That's silicium oxide. No, that is not sand rusted. Sand is silicium oxide. So that's silicium rusted. You might connect your computer to the internet, an input. Then you might have a firewall, virus scan, and spam filter in the place before you let the processing get to work. That's the checking of the grammar before you use the logic. And eventually store it into memory, whereby it can be recalled and output to a printer, disk, or sent back out through the internet as communication. If all pieces work, excuse me, if all pieces work synergistically, the computer is useful and generates satisfaction and serenity. And if not, it causes frustration and confusion. Yeah, the frustration part is a very big one when it comes to me using computers. The storage medium, says somebody here, is iron oxide. Bind it to silicon. Really? I didn't know that. There's really iron in there also? Interesting. That's Dan Cooper from the chat. Everybody, welcome. Dan, another Dan, Hecty, Jink, Joe, Jules, Lady Pitbull, Pixie, Mike, and a couple of anons. Welcome, everybody. There was another diagram. Gonna skip over these. It is more than likely that we all have a brain. Really. And like we just learned from Claude Shannon, there are 3 basic steps to making it useful. Input, processing, output. This cycle, when likewise repeated consistently, makes our mind a useful tool. Yeah. They're going to give you a term for mind here. I'll add to that in a second. Your mind, in simplest terms, is the operating system of the brain, which is the most complex organism in the known physical universe, and it's priceless. Yeah, there's more to your mind. As far as the ancients are concerned, Your mind is thinking, feeling, and wanting. The wanting probably is the volitional part also. Your body literally can't leave home without it. You might have access to all 5 of your senses to observe and interact with the environment. This is the input. Then you might have a firewall, an awareness of the observation that predates, that predators do exist. Predates, yeah. Yeah. Predators. Then you might have a firewall, which they see as an awareness of the observation that predators do exist. Why don't I see the link there? The firewall, as I understand it, would be equated to you checking the facts. You might have a virus scan, which is awareness of the fact that information lacking integrity. So they call that a virus scan. What's with the firewall? The firewall would then be the mainstream media. You know, they are the predators of your mind. You know. You might have a virus scan, which is awareness of the fact that information lacking integrity can disrupt your ability to think and act. You might also have a spam filter, which is an awareness that some predators use false identities in an attempt to deceive you. Through the use of logical processing, asking the 5 W's and how, these contradictions can be identified, thus allowing you to avoid the confidence scheme, as it only works if you're intellectually self-defenseless. Yes, see, that's why the Trivium is a weapon. It's a weapon to defend yourself. At this point, you might store this validated information in memory, whereby it can be recalled and output by thinking, talking, or doing. If all pieces work synergistically, the mind is useful and generates satisfaction and serenity, and if not, it causes frustration and confusion. Yeah. So the question is, given this information, why do we all seem to invest more in our computers than we do in working on our own minds? It seems we've been fooled into misprioritizing which is the most precious, and sold on systematic form of undermining our right of self-determination through some very clever marketing, thanks to a few egocentric polymaths. When we fail to exercise our choice to think or not to think, we become our own oppressors. What's more, what happens if we do not have a firewall, virus scan, and spam filter running at all times? Yeah. We lose our choice, we lose our choice as it is in these 3 steps wherein we evaluate and assert our decisions. It is the turning of our awareness through the false creation of attribution of trust, whereby we become controlled, literally. Yeah. For it is the input where the propaganda and deception enter into our mind, and without questioning, we store it as factual truth in memory. Our choice is self-usurped and outsourced to whatever input we are exposed to, because we have lost the curiosity to ask what, and the discipline to ask it in 6 ways, consistently. Yeah, that's very important. You know, it's, when you're doing research, when you're gathering information, the who, the what, when, where, and who, what, when, where, you need to check all four of them first of all. Who, what, when, where. Alright? The timing can be important. Sometimes I've come across this myself, for instance, the timing didn't fit. A problem arises, for instance, and I have to do some more research on this because I just don't know. I'm lacking the grammar. But my question, for instance, is this has to do with the time in which it takes place. It doesn't make sense to me, you know. In Greek, for instance, they are already talking about atoms. Now, how did they know that? How could they know about atoms when all they had, apparently, were ships and men on horses, and swords and shields? You know, they didn't have electricity and things like that. Super microscopes. So that doesn't fit in the time, you know. So I need to know more. I need to get my grammar about why is it that these Greeks knew about the atom? Where did they get their information from? I have a lot of problems when people claim that in the past there were already more technologically advanced societies. Okay, that's possible, but I don't find it very likely. As far as I know, the evidence points to us humans having developed from Stone Age, right? There was no electricity then. We had fire. That was our most important thing. So I need to gather more grammar about that. And I've tried getting more grammar in the past when it comes to India, but that's all mythological. They don't have real evidence for the things that they claim about Vimanas, for instance. These spaceships that are supposed to be able to fly from star to star. Yeah. Right, if that were so, their knowledge about the stars would be correct instead of wrong. Because what the Vedas say about stars is that they are pretty close. They're not pretty close. They're very far away. And then it says, Mike says in the chat, oh, Plato believed in Atlantis. Yeah. Atlantis may have been an island where they also had ships and fire and a little bit of metallurgy. But they did not have electricity or a microscope. You know, they were fishing with nets and stuff in small boats. So this island may have existed, but the myth around it that they had all this kinds of technological advancement. Really? Show me the evidence. I don't think there is evidence for that. And they might have been pretty much advanced, but they still believed in gods that were responsible for the wind and for the earthquakes and for the waters making waves. You know, they have gods for that. They didn't teach them as natural forces. They personified them because they didn't have an understanding of how nature works. So they came up with these gods for them, you know? That doesn't sound like very technologically advanced to me. So my question remains, how did these Greeks know about atom? And like I said, I still need to get more grammar on that. Still need to find more data on that. Let's continue here. Because we have lost curiosity to ask what, and the discipline to ask it in 6 ways, consistently, and thereby have lost our free will. Yeah. You are free only when you understand yourself in relationship to your surroundings. Huh. You would think that if you understand your relationship to your surroundings, you would see that you're imprisoned as opposed to free. When you realize that you're in the prison, you can start on setting yourself free. Yeah. And this changes as you move through the world. However, the common thread which creates the fabric of knowledge is the observation that learning is the path to freedom. Yeah, that's correct. That's an interesting sentence, though. What did it say? The common thread which creates the fabric of knowledge. Is the observation that learning is the path to freedom. Yeah. That's correct. That fabric of knowledge, fabric to me sounds like something tangible, but I don't think knowledge in itself, you can't hold it in your hand or something, but maybe they mean something else here with fabric. In Dutch we have a word fabric also, fabriek, which means a real place where you create steel, for instance, or other parts, fabric. Referring back to the communication system theory, this is the key to unlocking our own minds, decrypting our reality. Unlock our own minds? They probably mean learn how to use your own mind, right? Decrypting our reality. Is that what they mean with decrypting in the previous, what I was talking about? Like reality cannot be decrypted? Encrypted, I mean, reality is what it is, and it presents itself to you through your 5 senses. It's not encrypted. It's pretty much clear as it is. It's not so hard, to use your senses. Why do they call that decryption? I don't understand that. It's just an input. Is it code? Is using your senses as getting code? Really? I don't know, guys. I mean, yeah, it could be seen as code, I suppose, but that sounds like it's hidden or something, And it is not. Reality is not hidden. Existence is not hidden. It is in how we perceive things that things go wrong. It is in how you understand things that things go wrong. Right? So if you see existence as grammar, there's nothing wrong with the grammar. What's wrong is your understanding of it. That's why the ancients used all these gods to explain reality to them. Because they didn't have a correct understanding. That's encrypting it. Anyway, let's try this again. Referring back to community systems theory, this is the key to unlocking your own mind. Decrypting our reality, enabling us to take actions which inspire others to do likewise. Why don't, this is from the chat by the way, why don't even the ancient Chinese texts from 3000 BC mention the pyramids? Well, maybe because these texts have not been found yet. Yeah. Pyramids is another question, but that one is, well, I would say easier to understand, to accept as a piece of grammar in the time that it is built. Because we came from the Stone Age, remember? So the thing is one big stone thing. So I don't see a real problem there. They probably had a good understanding of how to work with stone, you know? War has both mental and physical characteristics. There can be no support for physical warfare if first there is not mental support which facilitates the physical action. Yeah, think about Pearl Harbor, for instance, right? To defeat your enemy, you must break their will to control you. In order to break their will, you must break their ability to control your mind. It is only when information is occulted that the appearance of truth can be disfigured. And it is in this intellectual corruption whereby human beings can be tricked into dehumanizing and thus rationalizing the use of aggression, fraud, coercion of other human beings and their communities. The buck stops here. Allow me to introduce the turning point by reflecting some wisdom which helped lead us here today from a lecture by farmed mystery writer and Oxford graduate Dorothy Sayers. Yeah, we've already done that, so I'm going to skip that. Here's where all of the lessons pay off. We are standing on top of the single most powerful learning methodology, whatever. Not mythology, my God. Method, use of method, right? The Trivium is a method, as we are discussing it anyway, which produces progress with ever-increasing degrees of certainty. But first, there's one more word to learn. Trivium. Yeah, we've already known about this, right? Okay, this is introduction, people. Trivium, Latin for where three roads meet. What three roads? The input, processing, and output. I really hated these constant referring back to computers. Why not just call it what it is? Grammar, logic, rhetoric. Which, when used in systematic ordered repetition, produces satisfaction. At this point, I'm going to have you elevate your own senses, your own sense of perspective, thereby transmuting your natural implicit ability to learn in an explicit form of intellectual self-defense. Yeah. So, listen, people. This is a kind of warning. Yeah. Because I won't stop it. But, if you engage in this, learning process of what the Trivium is, there will occur a change in your brain. So, just so you know, it really does change your brain. There is a physical aspect to this. It changes your brain. So, Like I said, it's a kind of warning. Yeah. This is simply defined knowledge resulting from answering. Okay, sorry, I forgot. The input, how to observe. This is simply defined knowledge resulting from answering who, what, where, and when. Right? So, let's try this again. The input, how to observe. This is simply defined grammar resulting from answering who, what, where, when. This input, or grammar, or knowledge, is referred to as the general grammar of a concept or idea. Right? I'm putting in words there when he's, in the text that comes back later, so. General grammar is the connecting of human word concepts to objective reality. Yeah? The processing is how to think. This is simply the understanding, which results from answering why. Yeah? Again, the processing, how to think. This is simply the grasping of ideas, or grammar, or knowledge, which results from answering why. It is the art of thinking without contradiction, a non-contradictory identification. This process or thinking is referred to as logic. Now next is rhetoric, the output, how to communicate. This is simply the communication of knowledge and understanding or wisdom. Yeah? So you see that the trivium is actually one. The third step includes the first two, you see. The output, how to communicate. This is simply the communication of knowledge and understanding, or wisdom. That is the communication, or using your understanding of the knowledge. See, usage of your understanding of the grammar. See that there is a oneness in this trivium. Starting again. This is simply the communication of knowledge and understanding, or wisdom, which precipitates from answering the question how. It is in taking the grammar and applying logic that creates what is referred to as rhetoric, or the expression of wisdom. However, if an audience lacks intellectual self-defense and does not question the rhetoric they consume, they can be misled. This is why it is imperative that we, the people, become skilled in the art of using this three-step process, known as the Trivium method of critical thinking and creative problem solving. Yeah, he's using here to become skilled in the art of, right? The art here doesn't mean like art in a painting or something like that. So beware of that. Whether referred to as input, processing. Okay, let me get some, hold on guys, let me get this here from the chat. How words are used to shape your mind, hence, is the vehicle for enslavement of the individual. Yes, that's why I say that language is a prison. Knowledge and understanding is the ability to see through it. Knowledge would be the grammar part, understanding is the logic part. Alright? So, to see through what? How words are used to shape your mind, hence, is the vehicle for enslavement of the individual. Yeah, and then knowledge and understanding is the ability to see through it. To see through what? Do you mean the language? That's what I understand if you put those two sentences behind each other, right? Because you say how words, or in other words, how language is used to shape your mind. Yeah, that's correct. It really is. It's mind control, people. Language is used to control your mind. What you have to do is write your own program. So you don't become mind controlled, but you control yourself. Hence it's the vehicle for enslavement of the individual. Yes, very correct. Knowledge and understanding is the ability to see through it. Through what? Let's see. What can I say about this? Yes, Joe Friday says, see through the BS. Yeah, that's what you get if you take a second look at the grammar, or in other words, the knowledge, or the information, or the data that is put in front of you. First of all, you have to check that, right? Then, if you have enough building blocks of a certain topic, you start putting them together. That's the understanding of it. And if they don't fit, you need to go back to the grammar to see what went wrong there. Okay? To see through the lies, says Lady Pitbull. Yeah. Yeah. Lies or fallacies. Yeah. Because that also happens. You know, they present you parts of the grammar and then use their logic on it, which is put in front of you. And then they come to a conclusion which you accept. That is a lie in a sense. It can be a lie. Right? You really have to do all of this yourself, people. You know, I can talk about critical thinking, but you have to do it yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Knowledge and understanding is the ability to see through the lies. Really? I thought your intellect was the ability used to see through the lies. And Joe Friday says deprogram. Yeah, very good. That's also very important. Try, if you can, throw out everything that you know and start all over. You know, that would be a good start for some people. You know, I've talked to other people in the past, and I refrain from doing this anymore because it seems useless to me. It only helps on a very few occasions. And I started talking to this person, and I'm giving him all this grammar, all this information, right? And he's trying to put some of it together, and he knows that that he's been lied to. You know, he starts to see that he's been lied to, and at a certain point he says to me, I don't know anymore. He says, it's all too confusing, and I just don't know anymore. I said, that's a good place to start, you know. It really is. That's a good place to start. To say, I don't know. Okay, let's get back here. Where were we? Whether referred to as input, processing and output, or how to observe, how to think, how to communicate, or knowledge, understanding and wisdom, or grammar, logic and rhetoric, it's all the same, right? It is all referring to the identical implicit and natural process we all have as human beings. Exactly. That's also one of the important things about the Trivium. People think that it's some kind of mystery or something. It really isn't. It's how your mind normally works. Another thing that keeps coming back to me, so I'll put it out there also by Jan Irvin, is that some people have said to him, "Oh, this Trivium, this is used by the elites. How can you talk about this?" Right? Excuse me? It is used, yes, it is used by the elites as a weapon against you. So what you do is you master yourself in this so you know how to defend yourself. Right? That this is used, that this is taught to the elite doesn't mean that I shouldn't teach it to you, you know? Yeah, I'm smoking on air, Dan. I'm sorry about that, but bad habits and won't go away, so. Yeah, I smoke on air. Yeah. This is why it's removed from the public education system and preserved within the elite universities, mystery schools, and secret societies. It is a single secret which allows them to create and maintain power in the first place. Yeah, that's very correct. You see, because they use this as a weapon to mind control you. By putting things in the wrong order, by making conclusions for you, by presenting you the partially data, partially grammar, or even lying about the grammar. Right? They know how your mind works, so they can influence it. You see? By amputating our curiosity and ability to learn for ourselves, making us dependent on teachers in Pavlovian classrooms, using Wundtian? I don't know what that is. Probably a name from some guy who had to say something about schooling. That's WUNDTIAN, right? So, making us dependent on teachers in Pavlovian classrooms using Wundtian implementations and experimental psychology to condition us like Skinner's pigeons, right? B.F. Skinner. Where we can read just enough to be efficiently and effectively controlled. Yes, that's why they taught you how to learn. That's why they taught us, not so long ago, how we can read, how we can write. Language. That's all to control us, no other reason. You know, a long time ago, most people could not read or write. And there is a certain reason why they taught us how to read and write. And it's not out of their goodness. B.F. Skinner deprived his pigeons of food and then used food to corrupt the actions of the birds. And our non-elected rulers deprive us of information and money and then use these deficiencies to corrupt our actions in their favor. This is the root cause of why the status quo is in direct conflict with human needs of survival. This is why in the 1500 hours you spent in public schooling did not teach you that which you've learned within this hour's lesson. Yeah, hour. We've already been at it 1.5 hours, and we're only making small steps ahead in this PDF, you know. We're not even 1/4 away yet. This is, we already did that. It is the most important thing which we can be taught, and yet is conspicuously absent from our status quo. Now, a couple of quick examples to give you the best grip possible of this invaluable set of perspectives. 1. If you've ever been out of your neighborhood and gotten hungry, it is likely that you've had the experience of ordering from an unfamiliar restaurant. You observe the menu, you think what you would like, and then you order and eat your meal. 3 steps. Observe, think, order. You don't eat, order, think about what you want, and then look at the menu. That would be illogical. Grammar is the definition of knowledge of what's on the menu. Logic is the process of thinking, comparing what you like to the menu, and assuring that you don't eat contradiction to what brings you satisfaction. Rhetoric is the process of ordering and eating the meal. This is why the order in which the trivium is presented is so important. You don't start with logic. You know, that doesn't make sense. You could start with logic when explaining fallacies, for instance, which we will do at a later point. I intend to do some next week. And pick this up later, because we are going to finish this. We're only on page 16 of 96, so... So that's why the order is important. You don't start with logic, because if you do, the logic ties to the word why, right? But if you ask why, automatically it becomes why what, you know? So first is what, when, where, and who. Those are the first. First you need to gather your grammar. Then you start using your logic. And next is rhetoric, in that order, specifically. 2. It seems that almost every television channel has a police crime scene investigation show. And yet, ironically, too few in this world can actually recognize, investigate, and solve any of the myriad mega crimes and grand theft world ongoing. Yeah. In these shows, the grammar, logic, and rhetoric process is a repetitive theme, the system or method by which crimes are solved. First, there is an awareness and definition of the crime scene, which then goes back to the lab to think through the evidence and identify and remove contradictions, whereby the connection to the criminal being made, the arrest can take place. Grammar, logic, rhetoric, a wheel of power, which the helmsmen use to steer the rest of us through life. This is the essence of how to start instantly introduce equilibrium in the world. One free mind at a time. 3, lastly, if you haven't gotten the hang of it yet, one more example. Everyone has purchased a product which comes with an instruction manual. Every single instruction manual with integrity uses the grammar, logic, and rhetoric process, or the Trivium method, to communicate the value of the concept, idea, or product, etc. The individual parts are always first defined and usually illustrated. This is the general grammar of the product. Next, the manual will show you all the parts, how all parts fit together, illustrating how knowledge of the individual parts interconnect, which produces your understanding, thus allowing successful assembly. This is the logic of the product manual. Lastly, the instruction manual articulates how to properly use and troubleshoot the product, and this is the rhetoric. By the way, you can still call in. There's about 25 minutes left. The number is 718-717-8296. 718 717-8296 if you want to call in. I should be able to add you here. Picture a circle divided into 3 equal parts. These 3 roads, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, when used in that specific order, repetitively, which activate learning engaged. No, not which. With active learning engaged, produces ever increasing degrees of certainty. Yeah, there's another thing it produces. It produces self-confidence. In case you don't have that, Trivium will give you a lot of self-confidence. If you rotate this circle and progress it horizontally, it creates a line of repeating steps. Grammar, logic, rhetoric, grammar, logic, rhetoric. Yeah. What I found in my research, so to speak, is that there's a lot of going back and forth between grammar and logic. And the rhetoric comes a bit later. And this is a comprehensive decision-making process. It is the process, the third step, it's like I said before, it's 1 actually. The grammar, logic, rhetoric is 1. First you gather the grammar, then you use your logic, but then in the rhetoric phase, when you start explaining something to somebody else, you also find out if you really do have a grasp of what's going on. Because if you cannot explain something to somebody else, it is you that are lacking. You see? So that's when you have to go back to grammar again, and logic and rhetoric, you see? It's 1, and it's a circle, and it keeps repeating itself. Etc. And this is a comprehensive decision-making process. It is the process used to deceive all of us, to lock our own minds early in life as being deprived of this simple natural reflection of human learning process. We accept whatever feels emotionally pleasant as truth, and that does not compute. If you'll excuse the irony. Yeah, that's okay, buddy. Critical thinking cannot be effectively taught in a curriculum. Yeah. As it is a skill which results from the process of thinking and learning and is driven by the grammar, logic and rhetoric cycle of observation. You see, that's why I said it also. I can't teach you, I can't do the critical thinking for you, I can only give you the tools so that you can do it yourself, you see. The purpose of grammar is to bring initial and consistent order to a body of knowledge. The purpose of logic is to extract understanding from the body of knowledge. Rhetoric is the cogent explanation of that body of knowledge. If done effectively, this is known as teaching. When one realizes that they desire to change their environment, either as recognition of a problem or the inspiration from a new creation or improvement, the learning process is necessary. This is why the use of our 5 senses, processed by the Trivium, and integrated into comprehension via the Quadrivium, is embodied in the famous 5-3-4 triangle of Pythagoras. Yeah, we're talking about the Trivium here, but there's also, it's part of the 7 liberal arts, right? That's why you have 3, which means 3, and quadra, which means 4. Quadrivium is all about number. Let's say that I shouldn't say it's all about number, but this number keeps coming back. Number is used to to measure things, alright? Number, quadrivium, is math, which is number in itself. Then geometry, which is number in space. Then music, which is number in time. And then astronomy, which is number in time and space. You see that number comes back all of the time? One of the requirements to enter Plato's academy was knowledge of geometry. Yeah, Plato. That guy freaks me out, you know? He spoke for the elitists, not for us, you know? Most of these philosophers freak me out. Because I haven't really studied many of them. But even like Schopenhauer, which somebody likened me to, which is how I found out I was a philosopher in the first place. I started reading some of his stuff, and other philosophers I have read some stuff of, and none of them tell you about how we are being fooled, how we are being lied to. You know, and as a philosopher you're supposed to be talking about the truth, you know? And they don't. They really don't. They're not talking about the truth of the world that we live in, which is a prison. They don't tell you that. They giggle around or something. I don't know what they're doing. But they're not true philosophers in my opinion anyway. Yeah, Plato freaks me out, so let's try this again. One of the requirements to enter Plato's academy was knowledge of geometry, which refers to Pythagoras, and the fact that if you don't know how to learn anything for yourself by asking substantial questions and obtaining valid answers, you cannot possibly contribute or benefit to a school which operates on the prerequisite of autonomy, or self-governance. In ancient times, students were taught the Trivium at home by their parents as a prerequisite for admission into universities. Now you know why the secret societies, including the Brothers Masons and the Illuminati, conceal this secret from the public. Because any single person who understands what I'm saying, or can learn to understand what I'm saying, is now impervious to the control system. Exactly. This learning process is a vaccination of information. Another word here. Inoculation from your predatory forces on this planet. Yeah. If I would have wrote this, I would have used other words. You know, not use the word vaccination, because you really shouldn't get them. Anyway, continuing. Specifically from those who use knowledge of how your mind works to undermine your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Yeah, to undermine your mind, in other words. The hope exists in the simple fact that you can hear me, that you can work to grasp my meaning, and that with a little thinking, we can all begin to reflect to change the change we wish to see in the world, and thereby make the convergence of will a success. Yeah. By the way, this is so good, right? You know, we have already won this war. Do you realize that? And why is that? Because we understand, and it only takes a very small percentage of people to understand. And this will grow and grow and grow, and in some time in the future, most people will know. It's inevitable. We've already defeated these so-called elitists, you know. We've already won. Our success is inevitable. Yeah, seriously, people. Long into the future, problems cannot be solved at the same level of consciousness. No, that's a bad starting of a sentence here. Long into the future. Forget that I said that. Problems cannot be solved at the same level of consciousness which created them. Yeah. This is by Albert Einstein. I'll leave it at that. Not going to comment. Where learning exists, therein is proof of God. Really? Really? And if we define God as learning, oh, okay, so, you know, if you define God as learning, yeah. I have quite a different definition of God. Not that I am a theist, because I do not believe in the gods that have been presented. You know, they don't exist. They are figments of the imagination. But that doesn't mean that you can have an idea about what God is. Or talk about it. But you should be wary, you should be very careful. The point why I'm careful about this is that I can't be an atheist either, because that stance is impossible to defend. You know, if you claim that there is no God, it's impossible. You cannot prove a negative. So don't even think about it. But don't become an advocate of God either, you know, say that God does exist, because you have a problem there also. But it's good to know about these kinds of concepts when you know that a lot of people are struggling with this, you know. It's good to understand other people in that sense. Okay, let's try this again. Where learning exists, therein is proof of God. And if we define God as learning, that statement would then be true, yes. If one equated the concept of God to the process of learning, one would note that in places where learning is stifled, it is as if God has abandoned the area. I was going to read arena, but that's something else. And conflict festers as more and more information is censored. Yeah. This reminds me of something that Bill Cooper said when he was talking about evil. Talking about the concept of good and evil. And he said something that, you know, can't be refuted. He said, do you see evil on the moon? And of course the answer is no. Do you see evil on Mars? Or Saturn? Or the Sun? And of course the answer is no. Why not? Why do you not see evil there? He says, because there are no people there. Yeah. Isn't that true? Huh? So you see, good and evil, in that sense, has nothing to do with God and the devil, but it has to do with people, you see? On the contrary, where people are engaged in kinetic learning coupled with the constructive action and compassionate communication, it is as if God is manifesting through the actions of human beings. Yeah. When you read the word God here, maybe you should hear that as good instead of God. Indeed, there is a connection between the concepts of energy, nature, learning, freedom, love, and God. But That is the destination of your journey, of your own journey of understanding. And I will not attempt to deny you that priceless experience of self-recognition. Rather, I'm here to fan the flame of curiosity, to help you ensure you reach your destination sooner rather than later. Part 3 is the closing. Okay, now what you need to do is type into Google some of these things that I'm going to mention right now. So grab a pen and paper. Do it now. Go grab pen and paper while I try to light my cigarette with this lighter that isn't working. So let's grab another one. This one works. So write or type in the PDF that you just made. When I said grab a pen and paper. Gene Odening, or Odening. I still don't know how to pronounce that. That's Geneodening. Gene Odening. Right? Type that into Google or in YouTube and see what you get. Here's another one. Jan Irvin. That's Janirvin. Type it into Google. See what you get. Here's another one. Write it down. Triviumeducation.com. Triviumeducation.com. Here's one that I really liked. Peace Revolution. Type it into Google. Peace Revolution. Episode 1, 2, 3, etc. And here's another one. It's very good. Tragedy and Hope. Let's see. Let's open this page and in my browser so I can give you the exact information. It is tragedyandhope.com. Tragedyandhope.com. Right? Go there. Get all the information that you can get. There is a Trivium study group there, although I'm not sure you can access that there. Yeah, probably you can. Let's see here. Yes, Trivium. If you go to tragedyandhope.com, you can see at the top of the page there's a Trivium tab there. And so a lot of information, so a lot of work, so much work for you to do there. Hours and hours you will be busy, okay? So go there, triviumeducation.com. Excuse me. Okay, what else do we have? Type into YouTube what you've been missing. Episodes 1 and 2. I'm not sure, but I believe that the person that I'm going to mention to you next is also in there. And this person is very much worth typing into YouTube also. His name is John Taylor Gatto. Gatto is spelled Gatto. Look, guys, I don't mean to be negative here, but all of the people that I mentioned to you before are better at this than I am, you know? So, I still need to reach a higher level here. Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I do not spend all of my time, researching and doing this stuff because I really had enough of it. I'm like, I'm done with it, because it really pisses me off. Every time I do research, I just get mad, I really get mad, and that's not good for me. I've had enough of this getting mad stuff. So, I stopped it. No more. That's also a reason why I'm onto this Trivium, because it's an explanation of how your mind works. That doesn't make me so mad. It still does a little bit, because I see it being used as a weapon against us, So it still freaks me out, so to speak, but not as bad as when I do my grammar research, because that really freaks me out. It really does. It makes me very angry. And so that I don't want that anymore. I've had enough of the angry stuff. So I do other things to get my mind off of it, really. So get that into Google, guys, and see what you can do with it. Literacy is a form of slavery until a systematic form of critical thinking is practiced by the reader. Yes, that's why I said language is a prison. Put in another way, language is the prison in which you can express yourself. Right? That's why in 1984 we are, maybe it's not a warning, you know, because it's written in a science fiction manner. Again, the question is why do they let these books out there? Carol Quigley also comes to mind. But in 1984, you get the Newspeak dictionary, right? And what is the idea of this Newspeak dictionary? To make it as small as possible, so that people know less words. Why? So you cannot express yourself. That is why. You can only express yourself in what the state wants you to express. You know? Now you have been informed of the existence of this process, the Trivium method, and have been provided with the coordinates of where to locate more knowledge, the word I mentioned to you before. Yeah. Typing something here. Smoking, yeah, I'm sorry guys, if I put you to smoke, then, don't start smoking if you don't, and, maybe you shouldn't even stop smoking if you do, because it can give you more stress than not stopping. And also it might be, and this is only a small percentage chance, but it might be a defense against death thrills. Yeah. That stuff it gets caught up in the rest of the stuff that is in there, and you cough it out, right? So. Now you have been informed of the existence of this process, that is the Trivium, and have been provided with coordinates of where to locate more knowledge on these topics. And this is where... that's the end of my show. I hear the music coming in. So, we'll be picking this up in 2 weeks from now, because next week I will do some fallacies. Thanks all for listening. I'll be back next week. Take care, people. Bye-bye.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
For more news, visit pigminenews.com.